Hello, it's John Heaton, and today I'm going to review this album from Elton, Caribou, released in 1974. Just get my notes. So, June 28th, 1974, the follow-up to Goodbye Yellow Brick Road from October of 73. So not less than a year after that album, which was a huge hit and stayed in the charts a long time. And then, so this was a very prolific period for Elton, because the previous one before Yellow Brick Road was Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player, which was January 73. And then in 75 he'd put out two albums, Captain Fantastic and Rock of the Westies, and everyone talks about this golden period of Elton. There's just a bit of debate about when that golden period was. I think I read that Michael Stipe said to Elton, I would have given anything to have the same standards as your first 7 albums, meaning the golden period started with his first album. I guess that's Empty Sky. But in my opinion, his golden period, and I know a lot of you are going to disagree, but in my opinion, his golden period started with Honky Chateau. Because I've been trying to get into the early albums. I picked up a copy of Madman Across the Water in Italy last week. And I've been trying to get into it, and I just can't seem to get... I know, David Jenner, you're going to be upset because I think it's one of your favourites. Other than Tiny Dancer, I just can't get into the album. A couple of other good tracks, but anyway, I'll persevere. And Tumbleweed Connection's another one which I haven't really got into, but give me time. So I don't think those first 7 are his golden period. I think his golden period is Honky Chateau up until Blue Moves. Those, I think that's 7 or 8 in just there. I haven't counted, but anyway, this was in the middle of that bunch, and maybe the weakest link of that period. But it's just got several outstanding tracks, and it's amazing to think how badly regarded this album was, not only by some critics, but by the producer Gus Dudgeon himself, as we'll see. Very disparaging. So first of all, I'm going to show you the latest Ultimate Music Guide, which I'm pleased to say is Elton. Pick that up. Also picked the Genesis one up. So it does the usual good job of reviewing the albums and giving the track by track ratings. Actually reviews each album up until 1979, Victim of Love, separately, and then for the 80s and the 90s and beyond, it just combines them into kind of sections and just gives an overall rating to the album, which I guess is probably right, because 70s was his golden period, in my opinion anyway, although this book even claims that his 80s success, if anything, eclipsed his 70s success, but I can't think that's correct. I know he had a few hit singles in the 80s, but critically and commercially he was at his peak in the 70s. I think that's pretty much beyond doubt. Anyway, so this Ultimate Record Guide gives a reasonable review to Caribou. Gives 4 stars, rather stingily, he only gives 4 stars to The Bitch's Back, and 5 stars to Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. But other than that, no other 4 stars. Oh, Stinker is given a 4-star. But, you know, Ticking, the last track, is only given 3 stars, so it's a bit stingy. And this record guide only gives Candle in the Wind and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, the title track, 4 stars, so that'll tell you something about how reticent they are to give a song 5 stars. You know, Someone Saved My Life Tonight gets 5 stars. Nothing on The Single Man, nothing on Blue Moves, not even Chameleon. So anyway, you're not going to agree with everything, but as usual they do their fine job. Very well written essays on the main albums, and very glad to pick that up. So the question is what they're going to do next, because we haven't had an Ultimate Music Guide for Supertramp, ELO, Eric Clapton, Dire Straits, and the one I'm waiting for next, Ringo Starr. Could be waiting a while, I guess. So Caribou, 45 minutes long, said what it's the follow-up to. I just want to read you Gus Dudgeon's comments on the album because if I can find them. Oh, I seem to have lost the page with his comments. Yeah, he's very dismissive. He says that the vocals are weak, the production's terrible. I mean, it was hurried. It was recorded while they were on the road, or while they had like 2 days break from the road up in Caribou in Colorado, which has since closed down, that recording studio. I've since read that he also recorded Captain Fantastic there, which I didn't know. Supertramp, even in the quietest moments, recorded there. So hurried, but and Don't Shoot Me apparently was written in 2 or 3 days. I think this was probably written in more than that, but recorded very quickly. Doesn't really suffer for me production-wise. Gus Dudgeon said it's a piece of crap. I think those are his words, which is ridiculous, really. It's uneven. You can tell that they found a formula with Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and they're trying to kind of stick to it because it works so well, and the song material is just not up to the same level of consistency. I think that's fair to say. So you've got tracks like You're So Static, which sounds like an energetic rocker, but it really isn't much of a song. I've seen The Sources as a weird way to open side 2 and not very memorable. Grimsby, Ultimate Record Guide, called a lost gem. To me, it's a by numbers Elton track, nothing special about it, and the lyrics are a bit strange. So, but the highlights of this album are all the other tracks from what I can see. The Bitch Is Back, possibly in my top 3 Elton John tracks of all time, certainly his best rocker. Brilliant opener, been in his live repertoire ever since, not surprisingly. I was Justified when I was 5. Brilliant. Raising Cain, I Spit in Your Eye. Times are changing, now the poor get fat, but the fever's going to catch you when the bitch gets back. I don't know who it's written about, but anyway, it's a great lyric, well sung. And the band, just to mention again, is the back cover, Nigel Olsson, David Johnston, Dee Murray, who's no longer with us, and Ray Cooper, who the same band who had been on the previous 3 albums and would also be on the follow-up Captain Fantastic before being replaced. All of them replaced apart from David Johnston and Ray Cooper, who stayed on, I think, for Rock of the Westies. Probably Elton's best band. And Nigel Olsson made a comeback with Elton a few years later. And I think tours with him to this day. Looks a bit older these days, not so recognisable as the long-haired drummer here, but brilliant drummer. And listening to this album, you can tell it's the same band as Yellow Brick Road because the drums and the rhythm section is just so in sync. Dee Murray, underrated bass player, played on Bad Boy with Ringo a few years after this. Forget who else he played with. I think he was in one of those famous 60s bands, which I can't remember. Anyway, nice cover. Nice shiny cover. I think the All Music Guide said that the cover was alluring, but the content was less than impressive. I don't know. If one's being strict, then yeah, it's not as good as Yellow Brick Road, and it does have those kind of filler tracks, maybe. But Pinky, the second track on side 1, is a brilliant ballad, which I love, and well produced. And yeah, it's a little bit similar to some of the stuff on Yellow Brick Road, and I can't think what, but I think he's on top form on that track. I think Grimsby is a little bit subpar. I think Dixie Lily is a thoroughly enjoyable stab at country, reminiscent of Social Disease from Yellow Brick Road, and the All Music Guide, I think, gives this song 3 stars. I would give it 4. I think it's fun. Well, it dismisses Social Disease, gives it only 2 stars, unbelievably. Anyway, I love Dixie Lily. Solar Prestige Gamong is all sung in a foreign language. I guess it's not even going to try and guess. Or maybe it's a kind of mumbo-jumbo lyric, a mixture of English and and Italian or Spanish. It's quite a fun track actually, quite enjoyed listening to that today in the car. Also Static, Nothing Special. I've seen the source as a bit dismissible. Stinker's an interesting one, kind of blues number with nice guitar from Davey. And David Henschel's also on this album, as he was also on Yellow Brick Road, playing great kind of synthesizer type material. He also did an instrumental version of the Ringo album, which I have, which is interesting. So David Henschel, a really important part of the band, not pictured here, but integral to some of the tracks around this period. Then we get Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, which is the chestnut from here, which made it onto Greatest Hits. Bitch Is Back made it onto Greatest Hits Volume 2. Those are the only two tracks which made it onto those albums. Elton apparently was really dissatisfied with his vocal performance, said do what you like with it, throw it away if you like. Hated his performance, which is a bit difficult to fathom when you listen to it because it's pretty well sung. And Del Newman does the horn arrangements, and this is Del's book. This is actually a draft version of Del's book, which he signed for me because he was at X University at the same time as me as a mature student. So we chatted about his experience working on Yellow Brick Road and Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. He says, the last work I did for Elton and Gus was to orchestrate Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. Their relationship was very solid. They had worked together for such a long time that they didn't need to talk much. I think there was a great deal of telepathy going on. They had learnt each other's likes and dislikes and each other's habits. I noticed this with many artists and producers who had worked together for long periods of time. I suppose it's common in every walk of life, but it's still amazing nonetheless. It was interesting how later versions of the same song could be so different. The George Michael version that was released later was fantastic and showed that a great song could carry any treatment and be just as satisfying and as successful. I thought it was one of Elton's best efforts, and other artists who had covered the song must have felt so too. It had a grandiose dimension to it, although its roots came from the southern states of America. The brass gave it weight, which is the bit Del did for this track. And this helped to build the momentum, for it came late in the song and added to the glorious finale. The use of voices in the track, and indeed throughout the whole album, gave the work a dimension that would diminish it if they were not present. It reminded me of the wonderful part singing that the Eagles were so famous for. I take my hat off to Gus Dudgeon, for it was one of the best productions to come out of the 70s. Well, Gus didn't think so, but anyway, sometimes the person doing a work is too close to it to be objective. I think it's a great track, well performed, and deservedly a kind of standard, really. Then we get the closing track, Ticking, a controversial track written about a child who goes mad and shoots a bunch of people. Sadly, that phenomenon is still with us in subsequent decades, has stayed with us. It's a disturbing lyric from Bernie Taupin, but I think Elton gives it a somber treatment, good melody, well sung, and I don't really get why people would criticise this song for having a controversial lyric. I think these issues need to be talked about and discussed, or even sung about, and rather than just swept under the carpet and ignored. So that was a really strong closer to this album. It's an album I come back to quite often. I guess it's not quite as good as Captain Fantastic or Yellow Brick Road or Honky Chateau, but it's kind of on a par with Rock of the Westies for me, and probably better than Don't Shoot Me, in my opinion, which I also listened to recently, which I don't think is quite up to scratch. But this album isn't quite up to scratch, let's face it. But it's got some highlights which make up for the lower moments, should we say. So thanks for watching. See you next time.